Okay, here are my audience. Audience, be seated. In the book, Crucial Conversations, they give a definition of the word dialogue as free flow of meaning between two or more people. In that book, they tell a story of a woman who checks into a hospital to have a tonsillectomy and instead has her foot removed. No fewer than 7 people were aware of this mistake as it was happening, but were afraid to speak up. In hospitals, there are 98,000 deaths per year due to human error. Most of these errors are communication errors. There are situations where meaning did not flow freely. People were either afraid, intimidated, or had other reasons why they were not open to communicating. In my life, I've had a number of experiences where there has been high tension and communication has gone poorly. I've served on a school board, I've served on the town council, and even in my family, it seems like when emotions are high, communication is at its worst. As a result of this, I've decided to study communication. I've read a number of books on communication, and I've also taken this class. I hope that I can share something of what I have learned with you so that you can improve your communication. In chapter 6 of the book, Looking Out, Looking In, it talks about language barriers and bridges. Today, I want to look at 3 other sources and find ways that we can overcome language barriers and build language bridges. The first place we'll look is in the book Crucial Conversations. Then we'll turn to Brené Brown and things that she shares with us in the book Rising Strong, and then we'll take a look at the TED Talk by Celeste Headlee. I'll begin with Crucial Conversations. To create free-flowing dialogue, there are some things that need to be done. In the book Crucial Conversations, it says start with heart, which means start with yourself. Take a look at yourself. I can read a book and underline everything that I think is wrong for someone else and hand them the book and say, hey, I read this book and I underlined all the parts you need to work on. But if I don't work on myself, then I'm going to have communication errors. The second thing they tell you in that book is to stay away from the sucker's choice. The sucker is when you feel like you have an all or nothing choice. I either have to be respectful or tell the truth. I can't do both. I can't tell the truth and be respectful. In reality, if we look harder, we can always find another solution, a solution where we aren't in an all or nothing sucker's choice, where we can tell the truth and show respect. Now we'll take a look at Brené Brown's suggestions for improving communication. Everyone has a story, and when something happens to us, we immediately tell ourselves a story. I'm driving down the freeway, a guy cuts me off. I say, what's wrong with him? He must be an idiot. He has no right to cut me off. In reality, I need to first take a look at myself. I'm not the only person driving down the freeway. I'm not the only person that matters. Then I need to take a look at his story. What is his story? Maybe his wife's having a heart attack. Maybe he has a family emergency and he's trying to get down. But whatever I do, when I look at another person's story, I need to make the most generous assumptions as possible. If I do that, that will change the way that I will communicate. After I've looked at my own story and someone else's story, I need to look for what I can learn or what truths I can pull out of those. And through doing those 3 things, I can improve my communication and the way I speak with him about the problem. Last, we will look at Celeste Headlee's talk, 10 things we can do to improve communication. Out of the 10 things she lists, there's one thing that she says is the very most important, and if you work on anything, it should be this: listening. Listening should be an active skill. We rarely really listen. Our minds can take in more words per minute than a person can speak, and so we often get distracted by other things. And Stephen Covey would say it like this: most of us don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. As we listen, we already have the reply formulated in our heads. As I wrap up a few things, I want you to remember to create a free-flowing dialogue. Avoid the sucker's choice. Look closer at your story and the other person's story. What can you learn from them? Listen to hear and to understand. Do not listen to respond. In ending, I'm hoping that we won't ever have to become that tonsillectomy case, the woman who checks into the hospital to receive a tonsillectomy and instead has her foot removed. Celeste Headlee says that if we can change one thing about our communication, that we can make a difference in our communication. If I were to choose one thing, I think I would begin on working on me. Thank you.